Thank you, everybody, for joining me for my show, Ladies Get Your Prance On. And I am your host, Lisa Lamont, and today's guest is Heather Poduska, and she is joining me today from Boston, Massachusetts. And so, welcome, Heather.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to get my purr on.
I know, get our prance on, right?
That's right.
So what has weather been like for you in Boston? Because here in Washington State, we had record temperatures last week in the 80s. And now
Wow.
it's back in the low 50s here again today.
Yeah, it's it's like that here too. It's been up and it's spring. It's up and down. It's up and down. But I'm just happy to see the green and the flowers are starting to bud. So as long as there's no snow, I'm cool. I'm good.
There you go.
Good.
I'm totally on track with you. So I wanted to ask you, one of the reasons why I wanted to reach out to you is because I love all of your shows that you do. You've had a lot of well-known people on your shows, and I just thought I've got to get Heather on my show. And so we were talking about what the topic would be today, and you thought that authenticity would be a great topic. And why did you pick that topic?
Well, I think that authenticity is really something that everybody is striving for, whether they know it or not. There's a lot of buzz about it in the coaching industry. There's a lot of talk about it. And I think people strive for that who are enlightened. But I actually think that everybody wants that in their life, because when you have authenticity in your life, you're free. You're just free. And I think a lot of problems happen in society in general, in personal lives, in business, when you don't feel free to be yourself. And I believe that when you have access to your own authentic voice, you have everything that you need to be happy, to be prosperous, to have good relationships. And it's also one of the most difficult things in life to actually have access to that voice and keep that channel open. So I think that it's a really big foundational piece to what I do in my work, but also what I strive as a human being to cultivate in my life as well. So I thought it'd be, I don't know, I thought it'd be a great topic.
I think that, one of the things that I have found is that, women are coming together and they have different buzzwords. Like you said, there's always this, what's the latest buzzword? And one of the buzzwords is being a tribe, being part of a tribe, part of a community. And I think women, when you talk about authenticity, for a lot of women, that means not worrying if what you say is politically correct, that what you do in business, you don't have to worry about being accepted by everybody because, not everyone's going to like us. Our country is divided, in the United States, it's just like half are Democrats and half are Republicans. And so the same thing goes with being authentic. There's going to be people who don't agree with you, no matter how politically correct that you want to be in your business. Do you agree?
Oh, I totally agree. And, I always say that if everybody likes you, you're not doing it right. Right?
Yeah.
Because that means that you're not passionate enough, you're not strong enough, you're not really connected to a point of view. And people who have really great businesses, really great brands, who are stars, they have really strong points of view. Even people that we don't, that people that I don't want to say that everybody doesn't like, because obviously some people do, but the person I was thinking of is Howard Stern. People have a visceral reaction to him. Either they love him, think he's really cool, or a lot of people are like, right? Or let's look at the biggest one, Donald Trump right now, right? I mean, that personality, like you love him or you hate him.
Yeah.
But he has, there's a point of view there. And when you have that, people, you magnetize people to you as well. So, yeah, I totally agree with that whole thing about having a tribe. And the other thing is, if your point of view isn't strong enough, if your voice isn't cultivated enough, people can't find you. They can't resonate with you even if they wanted to, because they don't know where you are. They don't know where you stand. So I totally agree with that.
Wow. That really hit me, because I've been in business for going on 7 years, and I have changed my title of my business title. I've gone from hypnotherapist to consulting to consultant to intuitive hypnotherapist. And unless people really know who I am,
Mhm.
I'm not going to be able to be authentic and do real business. And so this last year, I came out of the closet, so to speak, of letting people know that one of my tools that I use, that I love to use, is being a card reader. You know,
Mhm.
I was gifted these cards over 30 years ago that are, I call gypsy cards. And I was so worried that people might be offended by the fact that I read cards, or they would put me as this, you know, this crazy woo-woo person, and who does she think she is? And it took me it took me years. I'm 57 years old, and I'm finally out in the public going, you know, one of my tools I use is I read cards. I'm intuitive. And that is one of those titles also, that intuitive, that is overused, you know, that people go, I'm this intuitive person. But I had to reach a point to where I was okay with that. But at first I didn't want to call myself that, because I didn't want to be compared and put in that generic term. But it is what I do.
Well, I was just going to say that. I mean, so what? That's a
Yeah.
really big thing that I like to say is, so what? So what if people think you're a whack job? They're not your audience, right?
They are not my audience.
They're not your audience. And I mean, it depends on who you can tailor your message. You can tailor what you do to address different audiences if that's what you want to do. And you might say that I use positive psychology, or I, use my intuitive sense to tune into people's emotions. You could say it differently for different audiences, but, fly your freak flag, and, your tribe will find you. And listen, not everybody does gypsy cards. That is kind of a fringe thing, right?
Yes.
But when you take ownership of it and you really stand in it, the people that resonate with that are going to be applauding you, and you're going to stand out from everybody else. So I'm curious, what happened in your life and in your business when you did come out of the closet as a card reader and an intuitive?
Oh my God, my business boomed. I mean, my business went from, I would say it increased at least 200 to 300% since I came out of the closet saying that I read cards. Because the other tool I do that most people know me for is being a hypnotherapist. And the
Mm-hmm.
hypnotherapist portion is good for people that know what they need to work on, know the changes, whether they have anxiety that they're dealing with, or weight loss, or stop smoking, the things that people know, typically think of what hypnotherapists do. But if you don't know what's blocking you, and if you don't know what's holding you back, being the hypnotherapist or being a counselor, it's going to take a lot of sessions. And so now when I do my card reading first, I'm able to cut through all the things that are blocking them or what's holding them back. So it's been something that works really well for me. But let's talk about you now. I want to flip the story back to you. So
Okay.
you are known as a star maker. And so
Yep.
can you explain to the people watching this, what is a star maker? I love the title.
Thank you. Well, one of my gifts is being able to look at people and see 20 steps down the road. Like, I can see their potential. I can help them really craft that message and take ownership of who they are. A lot of times when I work with people, lots of nice things happen in their businesses. They make more money, they attract better clients, they go on bigger stages, they write books, all these nice things happen, right? I mean, great stuff. But the thing that people say to me most often is, "You gave me back to myself." And that is a really powerful thing to have someone say that. But I think that there's so much potential out there that people want to be stars. They want to be recognized. And I don't necessarily mean standing on a stage with jazz hands and a spotlight, but really stars in their industries, leaders really stepping up and being impactful and being recognized. One of when I give my talk, I talk about one of my earliest memories. And I was about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old. I was sitting on the street corner waiting for a friend to come home to play with me. And I remember sitting on the street corner singing and making up songs, and clearly thinking, I hope someone walks by and hears me and discovers me. Now, it wasn't, yeah, and American Idol wasn't around. There was no Voice. It was of everyday culture to want to be a reality star. It was just a really organic, pure desire to be seen, to be heard, to be validated, to have my talent recognized. And I was like 5 years old. But I believe that everybody has that inside. We all want to feel special. We all want to be validated. We all want to be recognized. We all want to be compensated for our gifts and talents. And one of the things that I help people do is start with their own validation. Because until you take ownership of your own voice, no one else is going to validate you. So when I say star maker, it's an inside out process. And sometimes it's an outside in process too, depending on what we're working on. If I'm working with someone's image to help them look stage ready, sometimes I've had that experience where people will look at themselves as a finished, and I'm saying this in air quotes, a finished product, and they'll be like, that's how I've always felt on the inside, but I didn't know I could look like that on the outside. So sometimes it's outside in, and sometimes it's inside out. But the goal is always the same, and that is to have that validation of your brilliance, of your talents, of your beauty, of your gifts, so that you can step out into the world and be the star of your life.
I love that. You need to write a book just about what you just said. Well, see, because
it's on my agenda.
it is on your agenda. Well, you've had a lot of really well-known people on your show. And what is one of the people, I mean, I'm just kind of throwing this out there. What is one of your guests that you've had on the show? What have they said to you that you had that aha moment when they were on there? Because sometimes I feel that when I have guests on my show, I learn. I mean, I'm learning so much about you, even though I think that I've known you and we've talked back and forth. But it's interesting when you get to know somebody on that deeper level. Have you had a guest on your show that you had that aha moment?
Well, I had someone on that, one of my favorite guests, and I do, marketing people. I had someone a couple of weeks ago who was a makeup artist to the stars. He had done makeup for Al Gore and Shirley Temple. So I've had like some pretty, connected people. But my favorite person was this woman called the Penguin Lady. And she's actually pretty world renowned at this point. She's going to the South Pole on an expedition with 20 other women scientists who are leaders in world climate change, right? So like big wig in her industry.
Yeah.
But she started out having no clue about her path. She'd done work as a silversmith. I think she'd been maybe a waitress. I don't remember exactly what it was. And she didn't go to college until she was 30 years old. And the reason that she went was she wanted to study dolphins, not penguins, but dolphins in Hawaii. And she heard of this grant that paid people to go to Hawaii to study dolphins. Well, she wasn't even qualified to apply for the grant, not even to apply. So she applied to veterinary nursing school so she could apply for the grant. And there were over 300 other people who were also applying for this grant. And she got it. So she went to Hawaii and she was studying dolphins, and then her parents started to fail. So her priority shifted. She came back to New England, helping her parents, got a job at the New England Aquarium, met the penguins, and fell in love with the penguins. Yeah, this is just such a great story. And she became a penguin expert, and she went to South Africa to help rescue 40,000 penguins from an oil spill. She ended up writing a book about her experience saving the penguins. She got featured in the Boston Globe. Her book got featured in the Boston Globe. Someone from TED Talks, saw the article. Someone nominated her. She's now done like 4 TEDx talks, and her workshop sits on the national website. But her story was her following her heart and her intuition and making whatever her desire was that singular focus in the moment, and then letting go. So being completely focused on the grant, being completely focused on the vision, but being flexible with where the journey took her. She thought she was going to be a dolphin expert, and now she's going to the South Pole, with this group of 20 women who are talking about climate change, not just women, scientists. So for me, that was a huge aha of commit 100% believe, be willing to risk, put your heart on your sleeve and go for it, and then be flexible. You know, sometimes we get really scared to go follow our heart, but sometimes we follow our heart and we dig in our heels about what we think should happen in our lives, and then you miss these other opportunities. So that was a huge interview for me in terms of my aha moments.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that with us, because one person with one idea, like you said, she had no clue that she would end up going, to dolphins, let alone to penguins, and then be on this adventure, to talk about, the coming back and talking about what climate change is going on up there. Because climate change, there are people that totally believe in climate change, and then there's other people that just believe it's a natural cycle of the universe and how it rolls. But the bottom line is, there's still proof that the animals in the North and the South Pole, they are suffering, the polar bears, the penguins, and things like that. And so here's this one woman making a difference in the world.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And yeah, penguins are an indicator species, which I learned from her, right? So that population is an indicator of global change. So yeah, absolutely. And it's the power of what one person can do when they get their voice out. So that was another part of it. She wrote a book. She talked. She went on stage. She shared her message. So she just didn't sit in her cubby and think about the dolphins. She got her message out. So there are lots of things wrapped up in that interview that was really amazing. And I have to say also, for me, I didn't know her before. I met her in a gratitude Facebook group, and I just saw her pop up, and she said something about something that caught my eye, and I said, I have to talk to this woman. And I didn't know her, and on the surface, her business and what she doesn't really match the 90% of the people that I normally have on the show or that I work with. But I had that intuitive sense of, I have to talk to this woman. And it turned out to be one of my favorite interviews for all of this sort of synchronicity that lined up about it.
And you acted well. And what's so cool, that this flips back to my inviting you to be on my show, was that I believe it was Joey Garrity that
Yeah.
shared one of your shows, and I
Yep.
watched it and I just said, I've got to connect with her. I go, she is amazing. I love your story. I love your journey, because here you are, in Boston. Here I am in Mukilteo, Washington, and yet we're communicating. We're acting on our passion. We're following through. We don't know where this is going to lead us, but we know that we've got to do this. I love to connect women as you do. I mean, that is something we have in common, and we connect men too. We don't want to, throw men out the board, but we tend to focus more on women, because for me, I can only speak for me, I feel the sense of women wanting to come together, wanting to support and lift one another up. The old stories of not being accepted or being proper and doing the right thing. Sometimes doing the right thing is telling your truth, being authentic of who we are. And because I came out and said everything that I do, because it's my passion, I'm so much happier. I want people to know that if you follow through, if you want to be an artist and you want to draw and you don't think your drawings are good enough, that's all in your head. There's going to be somebody out there that appreciates you, no matter what your skills and your talents are, for sure.
Absolutely. And I was, as many, many, many people around the globe, I was really impacted by Prince's death last week. And it made me sad on lots of levels that his artistry is gone, and then we're not going to. I mean, there's a vault of music somewhere, but after that's gone, we're not going to have his art anymore. And it was such a wake-up call for me, even though I feel like I'm moving towards always being more and more on purpose. But it was still a wake-up call of, if there is art in you, if there is production in you, if there's authenticity in you, that it's not coming out. You don't have tomorrow promised to you.
Yeah.
Bring it out. Do it now. take the chance. There's a quote from, I watch the Princess Diary movies with my kids all the time. We've seen it like 100 times. And at the end, when Anne Hathaway's character is trying to decide whether or not she should become the princess or stay, in her high school, and she reads a letter from her deceased dad. And in the letter, it says, honey, the courageous don't live forever, but the timid never really live at all. And yeah, and it's not easy, and it's scary, and you don't get brave before you take the leap. You just take the leap and go for the ride. But you got to do it. You can't let that sit in there, because there are no second chances when you're going around that sun.
There aren't, and Prince and Michael Jackson, I was born the same year that they are, so I'm the same age. And so when somebody passes that's my age, it is like a double whammy too, because then you realize, that could be me, because there's no guarantee for tomorrow. And when people that are talented, like Prince and Michael Jackson, for example, both of them, people have been comparing the two leaving, is that they passed the baton to us. And so what are we going to do with that baton that Prince has passed to us? Are we just going to, keep doing our life the way it is, or are we going to make a difference? Because, both of them made such a difference in the not only the musical industry, but they made differences in other aspects. Prince, there was a lot more to Prince than just the music. And so we all have that opportunity to take the baton that Prince has passed to each one of us. And what are we going to do with the baton? Are we going to hold it and look at it and go, that's a really nice baton, I think I'll hold on to it for a while. And that's okay for some people if that's what they need to do. But also, what can we do today to make our lives better for ourselves and to help other people? Because that's what we're doing.
Well, and Lisa, I just have to applaud you for the community that you're building, because I think it can be very scary and intimidating. Someone might be out there holding that baton saying, I really want to do something with this, but I'm scared to death. And they don't have that support around. I'm hugging my computer because I have you in my community, and Joey and so many other wonderful people that are women that are supporting, and not only women, but that are encouraging. And not everybody has that, and it's this, and to have someone like you who's connecting people to say, yes, you can, and we're here, and we're going to support you in this and make the world a better place. And I know that sounds kind of grandiose, but I really, really believe that as well.
It's true. 4 years ago when I went to I just wrote my book, Boot Camp for the Soul. And so I had a booth at the Northwest Women's Show, and I had the opportunity to get up and talk about my book, because the person who puts on the event, we really hit it off. And I told her that I wanted to start a women's group. And there were so many, powerful, girl power hour and power chicks. And there were all these big, tough, these tough names. And I was looking for something more whimsical, like a Yaya sisterhood. I love that idea of women just supporting one another just because. And so when I came up with the name, Prancing Kittens, I got a lot of, negative feedback. I got good feedback for people who like cats, but one of my really dear friends hates cats. Cats, they rub on me, and they just, why did you do that? And I said, well, I came up with a name because we as women, we tend to take care of everybody but ourselves. We take care of our family, our friends, our co-workers. We put everybody first, but yet at the end of the day, like a cat, we always land on our feet. Like hence Prancing Kittens. And I just went with it. And then I had doubt, and then some people were going, I don't know what a prancing kitten is. Well, then I realized I have to get the message out. And that's when I started my radio show 4 years ago, because there were a lot of women in business that were trying to do business, and they were just like posting their ad every day. They're just going and, buy this, buy that. And I thought, what can I do they're wonderful people. I'm always connecting with people. And I thought, if I have them on the show, then people can hear their why behind why they do their business.
Right.
And so now after 4 years, I've switched over to this format, and you were one of the people that inspired me to do it because of your show. So I want to say thank you for being visible. And this allows me now to have people like yourself on the show, because then now they can get to know who you are on a deeper level.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm so glad that you did it as well. And I also, one of my core beliefs is about sensuality. And I think that women, their innate sensuality is something that is very, very powerful. And I think that sometimes women try to do business in a male model instead of tapping into it. Doesn't mean you're weak or that you're uber feminine or anything. It's like tapping into your feminine power place, and I think it's not the same as a man's model. And especially if you're doing business with a lot of other women, it is a little bit different. It's not that you can't learn from men or borrow from men, but to deny who you are at your core, I think, is a disservice to yourself. And I have to tell you something funny about cats, because I do branding, and when I was first getting my branding together, one of the things on this questionnaire I did, it said, ask these people, if you were a dog, what kind of dog would you be and why? And everybody wrote back, I don't know what they wrote back, golden retriever, blah, blah, blah. And this one person wrote back and said, Heather wouldn't be a dog, she'd be a cat. And I was talking to my sister a couple of days later. I said, oh my God, this is so funny. You're not going to believe this. And she said, Heather, that was me. She said, I wrote that you'd be a cat because there's no way on earth you'd be a dog. So,
that is so funny.
Isn't that hilarious?
Now, why did she say you would be a cat? What was her reason? Why did she say that?
I don't know. I think cats are very sexy, and I like that whole sensuality piece and being sophisticated and sleek, and that's kind of my vibe. So I kind of dig it, but I'm nothing against dogs.
No, but if you think about a cat doesn't need anyone's approval. They don't care. So if you think about it from a cat's point of view, and I've owned cats, the majority of my life. But if you think about a cat, the cat comes in when they want to come in. They'll be pet when they want to be pet. They don't need to be pet. They're not up there wagging their tail going, pet me. No, they're just like going, I'll let you stroke on me, but they're not out seeking anybody's approval. They simply are. So I kind of like that.
Yeah. So I just thought I'd tell you that, since it's the kittens.
That's a great story. So who is your ideal client? So who if you were to put together your perfect client, what would that look like? And I know it could be a variety of things, but what do you think is the ideal client?
Well, I think the number one thing that my ideal client is hungry. I am not about someone who is testing, trying, thinking, contemplating. I'm all about someone who's hungry, who's ambitious. And I love the word ambition. I don't think it's a 4-letter word. Someone who really either they want to make a splash, or they want to have an impact, or they feel like, I love this catchphrase. They feel like they're a Ferrari stuck in neutral. They've got the goods, they've got the energy, they want it, they want to make an impact, they want to make their mark, but they're not 100% sure how to package it, how to get that out, how to refine their message. They might want to be speakers. They might want to be someone who wants to be in the media, who really has something to say, and they want to build their business in a bigger way. So those are the kinds of people that I really like to work with, and who need that help, and who want visibility, but not just, they want to look, act, and sound like superstars. So those are my ideal clients. If that's you, come call me.
And I love the hungry part, because one of the things that I tell people, they don't like the word hustle. But I love to hustle. I hustle every single day. I love what I do. I tell people, if you don't get up and if you're not excited to go to work, then you're in the wrong business.
That's right.
If you don't wake up and think, what can I do today? Who am I going to reach out today? Who am I going to follow up with today? Because women don't want to be sold to. You made that, you brought up the point about, working with men, and they sell differently. They don't care about becoming good friends, but with women, they do. We like to get to know one another. And even though I might not need your services at this time, notice I'm saying at this time, I probably know somebody that does need your services. The same thing for you with myself. You may not need any of my services, but you might know somebody who's kind of stuck. And I tell people, if you look at your phone and you don't want to answer it, who's calling, that send them to me. I will I will help them get unstuck, because
Well,
we all get stuck. We all get
that's right. And I have to say that you did my cards for me, and it was so much fun. And you had so many really insightful things to say. I would highly recommend anybody, even if you think it's all woo-woo, it is a total blast. And you were so insightful and so intuitive, and everything that you said came from a place of lifting me up and moving me forward. And at no time did I feel unsafe or scared. It was awesome. I loved it.
Oh, thank you. So, I tell, and thank you so much, because I tell people my readings are not negative. You don't have to be afraid. I don't say things for people to be afraid of. If anything, I give people hope. I give them direction and things to do. So thank you so much. So how can people find you? How can people reach out and connect with you, Heather?
Absolutely. So I'm at heatherpoduska.com. It's Heather, and then my last name is Poduska. That's my website. I'm on Facebook I'm Heather Poduska. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm all over social media, and my show is Thrive. So it's thrive.com, thrive with heatherpoduska.com. And I'm uber present. I'm making my mark, and just my name is the best way to find me. And so I'm there.
I love it. And I would really appreciate it if you would share that show with the woman with the penguins, because I know that if I'm curious, and know that the other people watching are going to want to know more about her too. So if you would be willing to share that in the Prancing Kitten community, we would love to watch it.
Yes, and you're going to be on as well, so that'll be a wonderful episode when that goes on as well, and we'll have everybody come and make comments, and it was fabulous, so I'm happy to.
Great. Thank you, Heather, for joining me today. Everybody else, thank you, and we will be back next week. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.